you're fired. Today's Gospel from Matthew is a bit like a first century version of the TV show The Apprentice. A rich man, like Alan Sugar, delegates responsibility to 3 apprentices. He gives to each a huge sum of money. A talent is worth about £500,000. Much later, the 3 apprentices must face the master in the boardroom to give an account of their business activities. 2 apprentices have put their money to work and have doubled their wealth. However, the master doesn't judge their efforts by the size of their profits. The one who made 1 million gets the same level of praise as the one who made 2.5 million. They are equally commended because they both took risks. Well done, good and trustworthy slave. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter the joy of your master. Or, as Alan Sugar might have said, you're hired. But have you ever wondered what would have happened if the risk had failed? Just suppose the servant said, Master, you handed me 5 talents, which I invested. Unfortunately, because of Brexit and COVID, there has been a serious downturn in the economy. I'm afraid I've lost most of your money. You gave me 5 talents, but this has been reduced to 1. Would the master have still said, well done, good and trustworthy slave? It's doubtful, and it's that doubt which inhibits the 3rd slave. The slave is so paralysed with fear that he plays safe and buries the gold in the ground. But playing safe is not what the master wants. It's this servant who receives the harshest criticism. You're fired, says Alan Sugar, or in first century language, throw him into the outer darkness where there'll be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Jesus tells us that his parables show the nature of his kingdom. The text tells us, Master, you handed over or entrusted the talents. It may be significant that the Greek word used, paradidomai, became the technical term for the Christian tradition, the faith that was handed on or entrusted from Christ and the apostles to the church. It's the word used in the letter of St. Jude. Contend for the faith that was once and for all handed on or entrusted to the saints. Valuing tradition doesn't mean we change nothing. Far from it. Let's use our own parable to illustrate the point. 2 girls both greatly admired their remarkable grandmother and modelled themselves on her. For the elder girl, this meant dressing in the same fashion and having the same hairstyle that Granny had 50 years earlier. For the younger, this meant wearing modern clothes with an up-to-date hairstyle, because Granny was always in the forefront of fashion. Which girl was more faithful to the tradition of their grandmother? Secular culture seems to only value success. We admire the successful business person, the successful swimmer, the successful footballer. This worldly ethos can even creep into our church life. Archdeacons want to know if we are successful in raising money, in attracting youth, in growing our churches. That's fine, but it can lead to a culture where we become so fearful of making mistakes that we stick to the tried and tested. But God does not ask us to be successful, but he does demand that we trust him. And trust means not being afraid of making mistakes. The third slave was fearful that his master was a harsh man. In contrast, we believe our master is a loving God. As the letter of John tells us, perfect love casts out fear. God expects us to make mistakes, and he would rather we do so than be so fearful that we do nothing. As Albert Einstein is supposed to have said, a person who never made a mistake never tried anything new. On the day of reckoning, we will not be blamed for our mistakes, but we will be reproached if we have always played safe. We will not be asked, were you a success? Rather, the Lord will say, were you faithful to my tradition of taking risks? Hopefully, we'll be able to say yes. If it were Alan Sugar, he would then say, you're hired. But as it's the Lord, he will say to us, well done, good and trustworthy servant. Enter into the joy of your master. Amen.